Welcome to the Krusty Fox, and another go-around for sex and the shitty in an episode entitled The Caste System. Set your phasers to problematic in an installment which includes this, this, and this. Oh no! Check out the link on screen now to watch the horrible history of our leading ladies from the very beginning, subscribe if you like what you see, and stick around until the end for last week's top comment and this week's question. It's springtime for Shetler in New York City, and Carrie already has a problem 30 seconds in. She's edging towards telling Big she loves him, but finds it hard to just come right out with it. That's because she prefers to spend weeks on end coquettishly dancing around it while her resentment-fueled anger builds to a peak that would make Naomi Campbell piss her pants. Like a burger van kebab after a night out, it finally slides out of her a few days later. Naturally, she chooses the worst possible moment for it, namely when Big proudly drops a steaming log of his own in the form of a hideous sparkling duck purse. For anyone else, this would be the end of the relationship. But Carrie gets what she deserves for this affront to romance when Big's reaction is to peck her on the cheek and run for the door. Hands down the best decision he makes between here and going Peloton shopping. Elsewhere, the good ship Miranda and Steve is heading for stormy waters. She's letting him pay for their dates, but restricting them to places that she decides his bartender wage packet can actually stretch to. It's all a bit patronising, like she's part of a mentoring program with an extremely lax ethical code. As they enjoy $6 pizza at her latest carefully curated venue, the topic of her law firm's annual dinner comes up, and Steve suggests he could wear a gold corduroy number that's already in his wardrobe. Somehow, Miranda resists the urge to drag his face down the nearest Parmesan grater. They drop by his apartment to view the offending article, and we discover that he's living in a cross between Charlie and Frank's apartment from It's Always Sunny and the bathroom from Saw. If the next scene was him revealing his roommate to be Raccacoonie, surprise would have been maybe my third or fourth reaction. He jokes that he modelled the place after De Niro's in Taxi Driver, which I take to be a serious warning that their relationship is part of a psychotic break he had just before they met. Later, and in the middle of a catastrophic irony misfire, Miranda explains Steve's lower income and apparent lack of ambition to the ladies, while they're pampered by minimum wage pedicurists. Charlotte, whose bedroom should have a "you must be this rich to ride" sign outside of it, pejoratively refers to Steve as working class, and chews out the others for pretending they live in a classless world. To prove their hypocrisy, she gestures to the poor woman tasked with scrubbing the sulphur from her cloven hooves. This is one of those weird episodes where the writers remind us that Charlotte actually isn't that great of a person, and then feel compelled to have her do something uncharacteristically stupid to bring her down a peg or two. Trust me when I say that the stupid is very much on its way. Unfortunately, Samantha concedes that Charlotte might have a point. This is because she's been dating real estate investor Harvey, who has a live-in Thai servant, their word, not mine, called Sum. Sum's duties apparently involve cooking, speaking in stereotypically broken English, and wearing vaguely Asian fashion which the costume department evidently couldn't be bothered to research. Back home, Carrie wonders whether New York's class system has been replaced with a caste system. If you're wondering what the difference is, a social class is something you could change, like J-Lo dancing her way out of the Bronx. A social caste is with you for life, like J-Lo's hatred of sharing stages. Carrie breaks it down into her question of the week. Can we date outside our caste? At her gallery, meanwhile, Charlotte makes a beeline for film star and uncultured idiot Wiley, who thinks a fire extinguisher is an exhibit. Roughly 5 minutes later, she's splayed across the backseat of his limo and allowing him to call her by the wrong name. Why, you ask? Because all of her lofty morals fly right out of the window along with her underwear when a man flashes his swollen bank balance. When Wiley steps out to soak a nearby pavement in what's probably cerebrospinal fluid leaking out through his love weasel, Charlotte calls Carrie. Carrie, to be fair, does at least try to get her friend out of there, but Charlotte's got dollar signs in her eyes, and at this stage probably shaved into her short and curlies, so it's far, far too late. Over at Harvey's place, he promises Samantha a breakfast in bed, prepared by Sum as he leaves for work. Sum isn't much in the mood for cooking, however. Turns out she's been pretending to be nice and normal to hide her crazy side, like Madonna does for the first 3 seconds of her TikTok videos. Sum isn't the biggest fan of her employer's nighttime companions and wants to boil wash the evidence of their night together like they've been scent marking the soft furnishings. She flips both her lid and the mattress, sending Samantha scurrying away. Later that day, Miranda very kindly gives up her lunch break to pretty woman Steve down at the suit store. While there, we see that the class wars, much like Miranda herself, go both ways when Steve refuses to let her pay his way. He claims that doing so would cause her to remind him of his mother. She has no way of knowing this yet, of course, but will come to discover in time how steaming hot of a roast that truly is. That weekend, Big takes Carrie along to a Park Avenue cocktail party hosted by Serena Bush, a wealthy trophy wife whose main expenditure must be compensating the innocent victims of her razor-sharp nipples. Every attendee has a variation of the crappy duck bag, which Carrie interprets as a sign that Big doesn't know who she really is, rather than a warning that he's trying to turn her into one of them. While smoking on the terrace, Carrie encounters waiter Jeremiah. He's an old friend she's only flirted with up to now because, unlike Big, the closest he'll ever come to cruising across the city in a town car is if he's dragged under one. When he whips out a new crotch tattoo of a dragon, Carrie inspects it from a probably fitting distance of 2 inches. Serena catches them and, I presume, deliberately misinterprets what she sees unless this is how she thinks a sloppy toppy is normally delivered. Big's reasonably good-natured attempts to straighten all of this out are rejected by Carrie, whose misplaced fury is now on the level of a Rick and Morty fan at a sauceless McDonald's.
I want Szechuan sauce! Where's my Szechuan sauce? I take a Rick! What below the dum-dum?
It's also the night of the law firm dinner, but Steve shows up suitless at Miranda's door to tell her that he can't be with her anymore due to the vast difference in their incomes. Miranda decides not to acknowledge her own patronising part in this and instead slams the door in his face. Maybe because that was supposed to be the release mechanism for a blade in the hallway ceiling. Meanwhile, Charlotte is at a bar with Wiley and doing her absolute best to be anyone other than herself. He oversteps when he asks her to visit the bathroom and go knuckle diving in Kuta Canyon, if you catch my drift. That's Charlotte's cue to ditch him, and she heads home to probably shed her skin like a snake in readiness for the next time the writers remember that she's the worst. Outside Carrie's building, she drunkenly stumbles home not with Big, but a newly fired Jeremiah. Carrie, who literally last week couldn't take the idea of Big looking at other women, feels affronted enough to indulge in some infidela kissing. She pulls Jeremiah up to the apartment to introduce her crouching tiger to his hidden dragon. Back in Harvey's bedroom, he nips out for a post-plow shower and Samantha receives some more summary justice. She comes storming in to give another dressing down, brandishing a Trojan wrapper in Samantha's face and wrestling over the sheets, which on their own could be lead-ins to a very different storyline. When Harvey comes back to investigate the commotion, Sum dramatically throws herself to the floor and claims that Samantha hit her. Conceding defeat, Samantha heads out, leaving Harvey and Sum to a weird dynamic which could probably be a spin-off all on its own. Carrie awakens the next day to a phone call from Big, who reluctantly tells her that he loves her too in an oblivious attempt to defuse her still-in-progress spiral. After hanging up, she establishes that she and Jeremiah didn't do the nasty. This allows her to write off all of her other rancid behaviour, including kissing and running right up to the edge of sleeping with someone else. This, she reasons, is because everything before I love you doesn't count. The simpler explanation being, of course, that she's just a massive So that's it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, feel free to drop a like, subscribe for more every week, and share this video with a friend like it's your new front-facing tramp stamp. Last week I asked you whether any of the ladies' calls for change were reasonable. Commenter K Golding 123 reckons that Charlotte took both the biscuit and the foreskin, pointing out that she has no issues adapting to things in the bedroom when it suits her. I think someone needs to sneak into her room and put little knitted hats on all of her pocket pleasers to freak her out. This week's question is, Do you think that Everything Before I Love You doesn't count, or should this first of many betrayals have been the end for Carrie and Big? Answers in the comments below please, and the best will make an appearance next time. Either way, thanks for watching, and as ever, if you can't be good, be crusty.